stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everybody. First on the agenda is Carmel Fire Department, 94 Gleneda Avenue, for resolution.
Thank you.
Mike?
Yeah, all my comments were addressed early on. This is just for we call them field changes, but they were a little more than field changes. I just wanted the board to be aware, so I have no objection. Everything is fine on my side.
Rich?
All engineering comments have been addressed, Mr. Chairman.
And Pat?
Likewise, Mr. Chairman, all the site planning issues have been addressed, and you have an approval resolution. It reaffirms all the conditions of the prior approval and reconfirms the negative declaration you had originally adopted. So no need to adopt that. It's simply the amended resolution you have before you.
We've discussed this a couple times now. Is there any other questions from anyone on the planning board?
Being there are no questions, Mr. Chairman, I'll offer the resolution of the Planning Board of the Town of Carmel, number 21-05, dated May 26, 2021, tax map number 44.14-1-24, Carmel Fire Department, 94 Gleneda Avenue, Carmel, amended final site plan approval.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Nice job. Thank you. Next on the agenda is DPL Realty LLC, 102 Gleneda Avenue, for residential site plan. Mike, you had a couple comments?
Yeah, this is basically the same memo as last time. A use variance is required. There's a few other variances that are required. The outdoor patio is proposed fairly close to the property line, but they did provide a tree buffer around it. It's a horseshoe. And next to it is a business, not a house, so that's another good thing. It's not that they're going to be making noise right next to somebody's bedroom window, per se. So, yeah, that was basically they need to get referred to the Zoning Board of Appeals for variances.
Rich?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just following up with Mike, a couple of points that still need to be addressed. Referral to Putnam County Department of Planning, GML 239M is required. Applicant has noted that. Applicant has identified the area of disturbance as 4,400 square feet, which is below the threshold of needing any stormwater pollution prevention plans or general stormwater permits. However, the applicant must provide erosion sediment control measures for the work being performed, and a lighting plan should be provided. Applicant has noted this requirement and will make and provide in a future submission, so there's no reason why they shouldn't be able to go to the zoning board.
And Pat, I believe you had a few comments also.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. So the original review pointed out a couple of things. The existing parking lot was dimensionally non-conforming. So one of the comments we had originally was there's enough land on the property to enlarge the parking lot. The applicant has responded to that comment by saying the parking lot's been there for forever. It's operated adequately. In fact, the parking spaces are not significantly undersized, but they don't meet our code. So the applicant's position is it's been working. We're not dealing with a parking condition, and enlarging it probably results in more impacts than simply allowing it to be used as it's been used historically. So I don't disagree with that position. To our knowledge, there really hasn't been any issues with the use of that parking lot. So the applicant now would require those variances, and he's made a fairly strong argument why they would not reconstruct that parking lot. We had a couple of other minor things. One of them related to the location of the trash compactor, which was all the way at the end of the parking lot, which was about 150 feet away from the building. The applicant once again said that's the best spot for refuse vehicles to access the dumpster, which is probably true. And they'll make their tenants walk 150 feet to put the garbage in the dumpster. So it would be preferable to be closer, but it's not in an awful position where it is today. They've given us information about lighting plans, clarified that there's no change to utilities, no changes to infrastructure on the site, and there are some stormwater management, I think infiltration trenches that are being added as well to improve the drainage conditions. So the applicant's position is they'd like to keep it the way it is and seek those variances from the Zoning Board of Appeals. But as Mike said, the big issue with this is the use variance.
Yeah, I agree. I see this much more as a zoning board issue, but let me open it up to board here. Any questions from the board?
Yeah, I would just ask the applicant, this particular applicant was before the zoning board once before for a interpretation whether overnight stay at this location was an appropriate use. And it's a quite lengthy dialogue that occurred with the zoning board, but basically they said that it wasn't something that was appropriate for that particular commercial area, and ultimately the applicant was turned down for that. So now, we're back here a couple of years later really asking for the same thing. So I really do agree with the chairman that this isn't even something that needs to be here. It really needs to be at zoning because they've already shot you down once for this. So,
Agreed. I'm not familiar with that previous requested action.
it was July 26, 2018 zoning board meeting.
Okay.
It was Rose House. They were trying to do a homeless type assistance, I don't want to say shelter, but something like that where they could help people out
Yeah,
and give
this
them a
is-
place to
But
stay.
the issue to be resolved was whether it's appropriate for overnight use. That was the
Yeah.
issue that was discussed.
Yeah, there's no question that we would be requesting a use variance. This would be a different type of residential use, obviously, than what's been described. This would be on the higher end of a type of apartment. And certainly, we would like to have the ZBA weigh in on that. As we've said, as Pat mentioned, we have a few variances, obviously, with the parking. The applicant's strong preference would be to not expand the lot unnecessarily just to meet the 10-foot code, but I think Pat laid that out pretty well. We'll certainly go and take our chances with that, but obviously, as has been stated, the elephant in the room is the use variance, and we would like to have the ZBA weigh in on that. If we're granted the use variance, which I think is a reasonable request, it sounds like a different type of application that was previously presented, then you still have a site plan to approve, and you still have a shot at, making it appropriate in the eyes of this board. If we are not granted the use variance, then we don't have a project. So we are again requesting the referral to the ZBA, so we can have that conversation with that board.
And can you just clarify, following up on Ray's point, these are market rate
market
units,
rate.
not institutional or affiliated with anything?
These are market rate.
One bedroom, two bedroom,
It's 2 one-bedroom and 2 two-bedroom, as currently contemplated.
and
yes.
what's existing there now? Is it empty right now?
Unrentable office space, from what our applicant has found. So it's been used on and off as office space. The applicant that owns the property, the law office, they occupy the one main floor. I believe they have 1 or 2 other renters in various spaces, but the second and third floor, which are the ones in question, the ones that would be renovated for residential use, they've had a real hard time renting. And we are, and the applicant is of the opinion that nice market rate residential apartments in that part of the hamlet would be a certainly marketable and desirable use. Obviously, the zoning does not comport with that, and so that's why we want to go and have the conversation with ZBA.
But the law firm will still be,
Yes.
will still be
Yeah, so.
a mixed use you're looking at?
Yes, so main floor will remain as commercial office use, and it's the second and third floors that would be converted to the residential use with the 4 apartments.
And would they need to be sprinklered and,
Yeah, all of that will be, that's, the architect will be certainly, working with Mike and meeting any of those requirements that are required by the residential building code.
I have a question.
Sure.
We talked before about the parking, and I know you said we weren't making any changes, but now that it'll be rented with more people, is there any concern about needing more space?
Yep, so the code, we basically, sorry to be talking.
That's
through
okay.
The signs to you. We examined the code based on the square footage of remaining office and what we're proposing to convert to residential. We used the town requirements to determine the number of spaces, and you'll see the 3 spaces that are added along the driveway.
Can you show those to us, please?
Yep. So we are. We are proposing to add parking spaces to meet the number of spaces that are required per the uses, the mix of uses that we're talking about. And so these 3 spaces would be added to the others that are currently existing. So we would be
And Vicki,
meeting.
that number's 31 spaces, 31
Okay.
required, they're providing 31.
Correct.
And what about handicap parking?
We're offering that as well. So we're showing that in these spaces up here. So those would be designated handicap parking. So the number and type of spaces that would be required by the code would be met. We're obviously modifying the site in order to do that. We're providing additional spaces in order to meet that requirement. And the variance that we're seeking is strictly with regard to the size of the parking spaces in the existing portion of the lot. The 3 new spaces, there's no reason why we wouldn't just design those to the town code, because they're new. So we're meeting the town requirement on those 3 spaces. For the existing spaces, they fit within the lot as currently configured. The idea is just to resurface an existing parking lot, which has been navigable and parkable historically with no issue. And per Pat's request, we provided an alternative parking plan to show how it could fit, but as Pat pointed out, the effects of pushing into this wooded area unnecessarily just to meet this 10-foot requirement when, very frequently, if not more often than not, municipalities require 9 feet, which is what we have in our existing condition, and the parking lot works just fine. So the variance that we would be seeking with regard to parking is strictly to do with the dimensions of the parking spaces in the existing part of the lot. So number, quantity, type, all of that is addressed. It's just the width of the parking spaces in the existing part of the lot.
I thought some of it said it was 18 feet, not 20. Is that this project?
You're allowed 18 with a raised bumper.
Right.
Okay.
So when you provide the raised bumper, you can reduce
I got
the.
it.
Do you,
I'm sorry, Mike, just to clarify, they would need to remove 15 trees if they were to expand the parking lot.
I was just going to ask that. The memo mentions that to expand into the wooded, because I'm personally of the mindset that let's get it right now, and if you're going to repave the parking lot, let's bring it all up to code. But when you see what's going into the wooded area,
Right.
removing 15 trees, and it
And
works
to
today.
clarify,
so-
we're not redoing the parking lot. We're milling and resurfacing an existing parking lot. And to your point, we're talking about an additional 1,000-some square feet of disturbance. We're talking about additional impervious, and we're taking out 10 or 15 trees that are, some of which are of significant size, just to do something that was never contemplated as part of what we were seeking to do.
do you know the age of the building? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay.
Do you know the age of that building?
Off the top of my head, I do not. I could get you that.
It's not historic or anything that we have to worry about?
No.
Okay, I just want to make sure, because it's Barrister Hall, right? Isn't it called something like that?
Yeah.
It is called Barrister Hall, and we can look into it, and we'll get you any information.
Just to make
on
sure
that.
it's,
Yeah.
you don't want to find out afterwards.
Yeah, of course, we'll give it a closer look, yep.
How many commercial businesses are on the first floor?
I believe it's just the one law office that takes up the main floor. I think they have some storage space and maybe one office on the lower level. And then there's the existing offices that are on that second and third, which would be converted to the residential units.
Approximately, if you know, how many spaces do they occupy during the week?
How many parking spaces do they occupy? I've been over there since we started this application. I've been over there 3 or 4 times, and I've never seen more than 6 or 7 cars in the lot.
Well, that's because it's vacant.
Agreed. Yeah, and again, the number of spaces, we're modifying the site in order to meet the required number of spaces. It's just this one-dimensional element of some of the parking spaces in the plan.
You keep saying that we renovated the upstairs. You mean on the plan, not in real life, right? The apartments are not
Am I
there.
speaking, was I speaking in the past tense? No, absolutely
Good.
not.
I just wanna make
The
sure.
existing condition is the offices.
Offices are there, and they
And
will
the-
be converted.
Yes, the application is seeking to convert those to residential use.
So my question is more out of curiosity and education. So we're going to add 4 residential dwellings to it. How does that affect, or does it affect the taxes for the town? I'm not sure you're the right folks to ask, but I'm just curious. You know, we talk a lot of times about mixed use, and we're in favor of it typically if we can do it. And if the building's right now paying X amount of taxes, and the upstairs is empty, but they add 4 residential units, how does that, if that at all affects, and maybe it's more of a Glenn
Yeah,
Assessor question.
taxes are value-based. So the question is, will this add value to the building, I guess, is what you're saying?
Yeah, I would assume it would.
I don't know the answer, and that would be a Glenn answer.
Yeah, absolutely, but typically, what we've seen for buildings that are unrentable is they're not reinvesting in the building, so the building begins to deteriorate. That affects its value. So the fact that it's being reused for a use that's being improved, typically, it's an increased assessment.
Yeah, typically, an owner of a building like this would go forward and fight the assessment, saying, try to get it lower because we got all this empty space.
Exactly
But
right.
now it's a booming building, and, so it could be beneficial to the town, too, is my point.
Typically, it would be.
It would be anyway, because if they are getting the money in, they can invest it in the building, make it nicer, which could, help the downtown area over there.
In addition to just having people in the downtown area that can,
Yeah.
utilize that downtown.
Question, so assuming this is approved, are all the vacant spaces then taken up, or are there still some vacancies inside?
My understanding is that this would take up all, if not all, basically all of the spaces that they've had a hard time renting historically, which would be on that second and third floor.
I have another question. Any of the renovations affect the outside of the building or the structure of it, or is it all internal?
Yep, so actually I can flip these. There are some minor modifications to the building that would be visible from the outside. It would really just be some subtle adjustments to roof lines, changing windows and things like that. But if you take a look at the plans, this is just an example of a couple of the elevations where you can see a change from the existing elevation to the proposed, and you can, it's kind of hard to tell. There are some minor adjustments that are going to happen, like a bay window to a more standard type window. There would be a few visible renovations to the exterior of the building, and then in addition to that, we are offering an outdoor amenity space, as Mike mentioned, which would be near the entrance to the residential units, which would provide an outdoor kind of patio, passive recreation amenity space. So those would be, minor adjustments to the roof lines and the building itself, very subtle changes, and the addition of the amenity space outside the residential units.
So the entrance to the residential side is on the side of the building?
Yes, the primary entrance for potential residential tenants would be here.
And that's where the patio would be, right outside that?
Yeah.
I'm sure you know, we're also the architectural review. It's part of our purview. So hopefully if you come back to us,
Right.
we're going to need to know what the sidings are going to look like. the roof,
Absolutely.
The whole thing.
And the designer, the architect, would certainly be available for future dialogue with the board with regard specifically to the architecture. And again, these are all certainly things that you're going to have a pass at, that we're going to be back, and it's going to be part of a site plan application that you're going to have to continue to process and develop with us. But again, if we are granted the use variance, then we will be happy to go through all those steps. If we are denied the use variance, then we don't have a project, and that's kind of our position. That what we really need to do is understand the viability of this project from a use perspective.
How many staircases serve the second and third floor?
I believe it's 2. I'm not totally sure.
I think you would need that.
Would that satisfy fire code, two staircases?
I did not review this for building code yet. The plans are not good enough for me to
Okay, yeah, that's what
Yeah.
I'm saying.
This
There's a
is
lot of
just a
stuff.
site plan.
Should this pass the ZBA, we have a lot to talk about.
A lot, because they may need an elevator, there's a whole bunch, we were just discussing that, we
Yeah.
don't know yet, so.
There's quite a bit of architectural detail to be worked out once we understand if we have a project or not.
You can show an elevator.
There is a proposed elevator.
And I would, just compared to some of the other conversions we've seen, the starting point for this building is pretty good. It's an
Yeah.
attractive building
It
to
is.
begin with.
Yeah.
But to Vicky's point, and then Ray ditto it, is we want to improve the neighborhood, improve the building, and, it's a good start. We got to start.
Improve the value of the.
Yeah.
Just a reminder for the board and for you, to follow up on Ray's, if you do get your approvals, you do come back here and we're going to have architectural review. We do have an architect on retainer, so you'd have to fill out a permit. As long as, if the board directs that to happen, you fill out a permit. There's a fee for that. They review it, and then after that, you're going to have to post an escrow for any additional reviews. So the applicant needs to know that. You need to know that for the applicant.
Understood, yeah, we'll let the applicant know.
Well, like we started the conversation off, it's more of a zoning use variance. Good discussion. I think it'll help you prepare if you do come back.
Yeah.
So,
Appreciate it.
do we have a motion to deny to the ZBA?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to deny this to the ZBA.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
I need to stamp.
Good luck.
Yeah, it's an opportunity. Last but not least, Swede David and Deborah 30 Hitchcock Hill Road for a two-lot subdivision.
Evening.
Hi, Jack.
How we doing?
Mike, good. Mike, you had some comments?
Yeah, the applicant proposes a two-lot subdivision off Hitchcock Hill Road in Mayapack. Provide a zoning table with lot area, width, depth, setback, frontage, coverage, et cetera. Jack showed me it was on page 2, and I asked him to just put it all on one page so that I don't have to go page by page to figure out what's what. The lot width and depth are not shown, put that on there as well. And are there wetlands on the properties? Locate them on the plan if they are.
No wetlands.
Rich, I think you had a few comments also.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As Mike mentioned, it's a proposal to subdivide a 29.5 acre parcel along the north side of Hitchcock Hill Road into two lots. Lot 1 will be 5.5 acres, Lot 2 will be 24. There are existing structures on Lot 1, and on Lot 2 is proposed to be developed with a residential dwelling. Just so the board knows and the applicant knows, the development of Lot 2 will need to come to the planning board. This department has no objection to the subdivision being presented. As the subdivision plans are refined, all missing elements mandated by section 131-13 should be incorporated into the project's design plans. Other than that, it's just standard general comments of referrals that are needed to the standard regulatory agency, the DEC, the DEP, Putnam County GML 239, Putnam County Department of Health, Highway, Mayapack Fire. Permits for stormwater and wetlands may be needed, wells, SSTS. And that's pretty much it. There's a whole bunch of others, but that would be moving forward when we get there.
Pat? Thanks, Rich.
So as Mike and Rich indicated, we've got a fully conforming two-lot subdivision. The smaller lot, appropriately configured, zoning compliant, no issues with the subdivision as it's proposed. The only question comes to what's the anticipated disposition of the larger parcel. So Jack's indicated that it could be developed to support a single-family home, and he'll demonstrate that, but it could theoretically yield 8 lots. Is that something that's in the wind? Is it imminent? What's the expectations of the bigger lot? That's the really only question with respect to this.
In our meetings, I explained what the Swedes want to do. They basically want to cut out the existing buildings on the lot, on the, lot number 1 is 5.5 acres, so it's non-jurisdictional as far as the health department is concerned, and lot 2 is also because it's over 5 acres. They just want to get this out of the way so that they can deal with that separately, maybe sell it, and they have no intention of subdividing this lot. They're going to market it as one lot, and somebody can, obviously they can put, make a lot of houses there, but the Swedes don't want to deal with that. They just want to get the lot with the existing properties on it out of the picture. And that's why when I met with the consultants, look, we showed a house that could be placed on the lot. Mike wanted a house on the lot, and we hope that this could be a simple 2-lot subdivision. We're not proposing to build anything. We just showed the house and the driveway because Mike wanted it.
It's required by code. You can't just create a lot for no reason. It has to be, you have to show that you can build a house on it.
Jack, you said the first lot with the existing properties. What's on that 5-acre lot now?
There's a single-family house and
Garage.
there's a whole lot of things. Like, there's probably a small barn, a shed. There's a pool, a single-family house, 2 sheds, 3 sheds.
No, we're looking at it right here, yep.
How many houses are on there?
Just one. This is one single-family house, the big house, the big lot.
And that meets code, as you mentioned, as far as...
Yeah, that meets all the setbacks.
Jack, are you sure there's not 2 families living on that property?
Excuse me?
You sure there's not 2 families living on that property?
Not to my knowledge, no.
I would double check that. So it's just for the board to know, I probably should, I'm please advise if I should recuse myself. My mother-in-law and sister-in-law live in one of those houses. So they're renting it from the Swedes. So just for full disclosure to the board that that's there. The decision on the subdivision has nothing to do. Actually, my family has to move out. So, but that's a whole nother story. But I thought there's a shared driveway there, and there's people living to the right, and then there's my family living to the left. So I would double check that, Jack.
So does that, and thanks for disclosing.
Sorry,
that.
I didn't know you knew that. Sorry, Mr. Chairman.
No, I think it's good you disclose it. Does that change anything from Pat or Mike's memos?
So theoretically, it would. Obviously, if it is 2, right now it's 1 parcel, but there are perhaps 2 dwelling units on there. Perhaps one of those is illegal. So we'd have to find out the disposition of the second dwelling unit if in fact it's there.
And even if it is legal, you can't minimize the lot area of a non-conforming use
Exactly.
without getting a variance.
Yeah.
So that could change everything.
What was that?
You'd be increasing the nonconformity of a single-family lot with 2 dwellings on it by
And
reducing
shrinking.
the size of it.
Okay, I'll check with the Swedes. I thought they would be here tonight, but I'll check with them. Sure. And the other thing I did was to show the board the developability of that lot, and that was one of the questions that Pat had brought up when
Of
I
the
met with
larger
him.
25-acre lot?
Excuse me?
The developability of the 25-acre lot?
Right, you worry about wetlands, you worry about
Yeah.
steep slopes. The shaded areas on the developable, the big lot, are areas over 15%. All the white areas are less than 15%. So like 95% of the lot is less than 15%. So it's not a question of whether it can be developed, and there are no environmental issues on it.
Yeah,
But I'll
we've seen large subdivisions like that when the balance of the big parcel is severely constrained, and you know nothing will happen on it.
Right.
That's why we asked the question. This is not the case here. That's
Right,
a
where they
developable parcel.
Could build 8 houses based on the 25 acres,
Yep.
3 acres on it.
So Jack's answer is perfectly acceptable. If the Swedes have no intention of doing something on the property, that's fine. The next guy might. And we're not preventing him from doing that. They would be entitled to do that. They'd have to come back to you. But, yeah.
Can I ask Rich something? You think that there are 2, that your family occupies 2 different houses there?
No, my family only occupies the one main farmhouse, which is when you drive up the driveway to the left, there's straight ahead is a garage,
Yeah.
and then there's a house to the right. It may certainly be a different tax parcel, but I'm not sure
No,
about that.
well, it's one tax parcel, I don't know, but There was a subdivision, I have to check this. There was a subdivision in the past, actually I have that, I think, that cut off additional houses which may not be on this parcel.
Yeah,
That's what he's
I'm
saying. Just
Just
check into
confirm that.
Yeah, I think we have time
Yeah,
to
we-
confirm that. I don't want to,
Yeah,
so,
belabor this, yeah.
let me ask the board if there's any questions from anyone on the board right now, other than that, what Rich brought up, which was great that you brought it up.
What is the,
Go ahead, Bob.
what is the zoning restriction right now in terms of, it's just pure residential on this property?
Excuse me?
The zoning, what is the zoning restriction on this property right now? Is it just pure residential?
Yes, I believe so, yeah, right.
And if they decided to do a cluster residential development, how many homes would be on there?
You could theoretically put 8 on it. Oh,
Probably less than that.
7 or 8.
Yeah.
okay.
7 or 8, sorry, my microphone's
Yeah.
up. Because it's 10% loss for roads and everything, so.
But these owners, the Sweet family, are not going to do that. They want to sell it as is, but
Somebody
very
else
well
could
be
do.
someone that buys it might want to do that.
Right, but, yeah,
Does the applicant actually reside at that address?
across the street. Well, Rich's family lives there.
They were here for another subdivision a couple years ago, when they were trying to get land off to sell to DEP, I believe, or open space or something.
They
were-
donated it to Putnam County Land Trust.
There you go, land trust.
The only reason I asked is because Rich had said his family lives in the main house, so, you know. Yeah.
Nancy, did you have something?
All right, we did a Google Maps, so,
I'm thinking we have to go back, verify all this, and then start all over again.
I'm gonna do, I'll find that out, but that little
think we need a
building is a
clarification.
shed
Yeah.
on the plan.
The consultants may need to revise their memos. Anyway.
Okay,
Jack, it might be right next door on a different tax parcel. I think they use the same driveway to get in and out, though.
okay, I'll check that, so.
Jack, we can get you on your next agenda
Okay.
easily in 2 weeks, and we can iron this all out, and
And you can put the information on the map that I asked, it's simple.
then I actually think if all the data seems like it might be, we can move relatively quick then. I mean, we'll talk to Rose, and let's get on the agenda in 2 weeks and see if we can,
Okay, I'll do that, thank you. The next time I'll bring 2 boards.
okay, thank you.
You've only been doing this how long?
Thanks, Jack. Okay, Rose distributed the minutes of May 13th. Bob, I think you had a few corrections to it. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes as distributed and corrected by Bob?
I'll make the motion.
second?
All in favor?
Aye. And I think
Two
also
sets of
the
minutes.
28, minutes of the 28.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay. Minutes of April 28th?
I can offer the minutes of the April 28, 2021 meeting.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good night, everybody. Happy Memorial Day.